Hello, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the Literally Me podcast. We're recording this immediately after our Oscar talk, so we're in the rhythm. And this episode, we're talking about our boy's directorial debut, and it's a film called Lost River, which came out in 2014, which we've both seen before, and we both rewatched it for this one. And it stars people like Christina Hendricks, Ian McCasticker, Saoirse Ronan, Eva Mendes, Matt Smith, and Ben Mendelsohn. And it's a very dreamy film that I can't wait to talk about it with you. But before we get into this one, and I didn't tell you about this, this is gonna be put on the hot seat here. But we're talking
Oh,
about the directorial debut, or like a film of our boy Ryan Gosling. And as the coincidences of this podcast have it, our boy Ryan Gosling also directed something that we haven't talked about on the podcast yet. So tell us about your new short film, what it's about, and
hell yeah.
let's
Yeah, I
segue here.
direct. Yeah, I appreciate the plug here. I directed a short called Minutes. We filmed it at an active airport. We shot it in about 8 hours. We really did one day. We just kind of ran through. But I think it translated. The whole movie is about someone who's running late for their flight, who is trying desperately to make it on time, and goes to some extreme lengths to try to get there. And I think shooting it very quickly really translated well. And yeah, you can watch it on YouTube right now for free. Just type in minutes. Maybe type in minutes Mandalay Film Club or minutes 2024 short film. Maybe help it out a little bit. Or head to Letterbox. Search minutes up there, and I got a review up. There aren't that many, so you can find mine. And I got a link to the YouTube on there. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. And Dino has been a staunch supporter of not just minutes, but all the stuff we've been working on in general. And excited to see if someone else possibly makes some kind of directorial debut, perhaps this
Oh,
year. I don't know. I'm
you're
not going to
hinting
say
at
anything. Who
something.
knows? I don't know. I'm not going to say anything. Who knows?
Who knows, man? Some things
Who
might
knows?
happen, but seriously, go check out Minutes. I'm gonna put like a link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, and
Yeah,
definitely
please
head
go
over
check it
there,
out.
check it out, leave a review on Letterboxd, and
Yes,
it's a
please
great
do.
film. It's super funny. A lot of like, it has like from any short film I've seen, the most like memorable lines because there's so
Oh,
many lines
thanks.
that even just now like I just quote because there's like so great and it's super funny and super like anxiety inducing. So you did a
I
wonderful job.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. We've gotten some gifs out of it too. Some people have edited together some gifs. One of which involving my dad that I think is fucking hilarious. But yeah,
Wait,
I appreciate kind words. Let
your
me show it
dad
to you
was
here.
in it?
I'll show you. You'll know. You'll know when you see. Be like, yeah, of course, that's this man's dad. Hold up. My friend sent it earlier in a chat to me, and I was dying laughing.
I need to see this
Uh,
one. I did
Here, hold
not
up. Give
know
me.
your dad was on this.
Yes, he was. And here, let's see if we can see this.
Okay, yep. Yep. Now that you mentioned it, that makes
Now it makes
it's
sense. Like, yeah, okay, that was his dad. Yeah.
that's amazing, man.
That was awesome.
Hell
He
yeah.
killed it. A lot of people loved his part in it too. So shout out to my
Mhm.
dad.
Shout out to
Um,
your dad, man.
but let's get to talking about some much better movies than Minutes. Um, have you seen? Well, should we talk about what we've seen recently?
Well, I'm gonna talk about next episode, but
Okay.
this one's
Okay.
all because we haven't talked about what we watched in I think 2 or 3 months. So there's a lot of things, and you've been watching
There's
some.
a and a lot of it are things that I want to talk to you about. So for the listeners, it won't just be me rambling on. There are things I haven't been able to talk about with Dino yet because I was unfamiliar. Now, if you guys are listeners from early on in the pod, before we even transitioned to the Gosling talk, you might have heard me mentioning that I was going through the Mission Impossible movies at the time. I rewatched number one, which I hadn't seen in some time, and then I watched Mission Impossible 2. John Woo, loved that shit. And Mission Impossible 3. And then there was a plateau where I didn't watch anymore. I was dating someone at the time we were watching it together, and then she was kind of like, "This is the same thing. I don't want to watch it anymore." So I was like, "All right, I'll watch it myself." And then it was like, "Well, you can't watch it without me still." So
Yep.
anyway, it took some time for me to now, sit down and watch them. And I've gone through all the Mission Impossible movies, as I mentioned very briefly on the last ep. Any literally 2010s Tom Cruise action movie that's come out, I've probably seen it in the last week or two. I have watched everything, absolutely everything.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I want to talk to you about Mission Impossible rankings
Hmm.
while we're talking on the subject.
Hmm.
Do you have a proper 1 through 7 ranking of the Mission Impossible movies?
I don't have one written down, but I could do it on the spot.
Let's hear it. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's each start at number 7 and work our way to one. We'll each give our number 7, whatever. I have mine written down because I really wanted to get into the weeds of it.
Okay.
I think I know what your number 7 is,
Which is
which is
gonna
a
break your
dagger to
heart.
my heart. But
Yeah.
let's go for it. Number 7 is
Mission Impossible 2. I don't like this film. I know you love it, and your love for this film made me dislike it less. I appreciate it more
okay.
because I know my boy
I thought you were
loves
gonna
it.
say dislike it more.
I'm gonna say I hate it because I don't hate films. I dislike it.
yeah.
I mean, I dislike it less. My bad. But
Yes.
it's yeah, I don't like it. I think it's the
I
weakest one of the franchise. It's so different from the other ones, which I guess you like, but it just doesn't do it for me. It's too corny. It's too cheesy. Which I like it in other action films, but not with my precious Mission Impossible.
yeah. I'll I'll get to the defending once I get to my ranking of
Mm.
it later on. My number 7 is the first Mission Impossible.
Okay.
Um, and I love Brian De Palma. He's one of my favorite directors of all time.
Mhm.
Um, to me, I really like every single Mission Impossible movie for the most part. I find this one to be a little more forgettable, to be honest. Like I think it just got better. Not that it's
Mhm.
bad, but it just got better. It's like the first season of Seinfeld, and that's actually a great analogy. 7 seasons of Seinfeld, 7 episodes
Mhm.
of this, where the first one, it's not terrible. Maybe in Seinfeld, actually, the first season is not great, but it's because they were getting their legs, like they were stretching their legs, they were getting used to what they were doing. They became more comfortable with the world. So as it goes on, it gets better.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying Mission Impossible One is bad, but I think it's my least favorite, to be honest.
Yeah, I can see that.
Actually, it's too late. I've already said it, but I actually think I want to change my answer.
Change it. Change it.
I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna flip. I think Rogue Nation actually is my least favorite. Now that I think
Okay.
about it, I think Rogue
Okay.
Nation's my least. Um, I found it very. I wasn't engaged in it, and I think I told you it was like maybe because I ran it back immediately, like back to back with Ghost Protocol,
Mhm.
and like I'll get into the rankings, but I love Ghost Protocol. And I think I was just expecting it above and beyond, and I didn't think that, and I didn't care as much. I hated that Paula Patton wasn't in it because I loved looking at her the whole time in Ghost Protocol, and I don't know, it didn't rock with me, Rogue
Mhm.
Nation. So I'm gonna put that actually as the last one.
I think because also there wasn't enough time between those two for you, I think. Because
I think so.
for
Yeah.
me, for example, I saw Ghost Protocol in theaters,
Yeah.
and it was such a long time before Rogue Nation came out. I think that time in between takes you out a little bit, so you don't know how good it was. I still like Rogue Nation, but it's a little bit
Yeah.
less than Ghost Protocol,
The some
which
of the others. Yeah.
okay.
Number
My
6.
number 6 would be Mission Impossible 3, I think. That's
Interesting.
the
Okay.
one directed by J.J. Abrams. I love it for bringing the franchise back on track, and J.J. Abrams definitely, like, put new life into this, and I don't think it would be going right now if it wasn't for J.J. Abrams because things weren't, like, really going for them after the second
Yeah.
one, which wasn't received well. So I love this film for doing, like, a little course correction. Um, but yeah, I find it to be a little forgettable. I like
Interesting. Okay.
I like the tonal shift. I like the tone because definitely like this one, this is the tone they went with, like going further. Yeah, I appreciate for it, but I think it's just like, and they're all amazing, so this one just falls on
In
number
a
6.
way in a way, though,
Mhm.
and it's interesting because you pair 2 and 3, like, together. I
Mhm.
also pair them together but I think I get why. I almost feel that Mission Impossible 3 and 2 are both the most tonally different of the entire franchise. 1, 4, 5, 6, 7 are like, to me, I'm like, these are all the same thing. 2 and
Mhm.
3 kind of feel like their own little thing to me in a weird way.
True, but it definitely, like, where it was in 2, it definitely,
I
like, it
agree.
put it on the
It
direction where it
definitely,
was going,
definitely,
like, more in this direction. It's still its own thing, but it's more like 3 than it is 2.
definitely. I agree.
That's
I agree.
that's what I mean, yeah.
Um, well, my number
Mhm,
6 is Mission Impossible 1. I don't need to talk about it. I already kind of did, but I
mhm.
flopped those two. Mission Impossible 1 would be my number 6.
Okay. And then my number 5 would be, I think, Rogue Nation. I think that would
Interesting.
be
Okay.
actually, no, I think the first one. I think the first be put here. So it's 2, 3, 1.
Okay.
Yep.
My number 5 would be Fallout, believe it or not.
Damn.
Um, I enjoy it. Again, none of these I really dislike. I enjoy
Mhm,
it. Um, but to me there was something where it was like, I don't know, it didn't just like react with me like some of the others where I'm just like, holy shit. Um, like Rogue Nation and Fallout, like they're kind of like one thing, sort of in a
mhm.
way.
Yep.
Um, so like I kind of almost see them grouped together as one sort of package thing. And to
Mhm.
me, I just don't find any of that stuff as interesting. Like the Henry Cavill stuff, and that was Rogue Nation, right? He was in,
No,
or
that was
was that
Fallout.
Fallout? That was
That
Fallout.
was
Yeah,
Fallout.
I don't care for it. I'm just not here for it. I didn't. It to me it was just not my thing as much.
Mhm.
But the action is fucking unbelievable.
That
In
bathroom
Fallout,
bathroom fight is insane, though.
it's incredible. It's incredible. That's actually a great sequence. That's a
That is
great sequence.
when I
Yeah,
first watched and, like, Henry Cavill, there's this move he does, where he, like, does this, and it's just,
yeah,
like, every time I see him, I'm like, "Dude, this man, I love him so much."
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Still a good movie, but yeah, I think I would put it at
Yeah.
number 5 for me personally. What's your number 4?
My number 4 would be Rogue Nation. I think it's a great film, I like it. It definitely feels like because McQuarrie came in with this one, you
Yeah,
can see, like, he was gonna do the next 2 or, like, the next 3, I guess. And this is sort of a film where he put all the characters into place for the future, so it
yeah,
doesn't feel as complete on its own. You can tell, like, they're setting up something for the future, which is Fallout, and for that, I think it definitely suffers a little bit from that, but it's still amazing. It just feels like the first act of something way bigger.
sure. I
Yeah,
agree.
so that's my number 4.
Okay. No, my number 4 is gonna be Mission Impossible 3.
Mhm,
I mentioned it earlier as kind of standing its own thing, and I had it on just like in the background the other day, like when
mhm.
I was working, it was just kind of on the TV, and I was like, this might be the darkest Mission Impossible movie that they ever made. It's like
Yeah,
fucking dark, and it's the most intense, like in terms of like not like suspense or like the tension, but like actual like, oh, this is like intense like content. And like
mm,
Philip Seymour Hoffman really gives it his all. And
yeah,
seeing him as a bad guy, I always really love. Because there's something about him that is, even when he's not playing a bad guy, there's something that's kind of intimidating about him in a weird way.
mhm.
Like in Moneyball, like when he's playing the coach, who's just kind of a side character, but he's still like, I'm like, I don't really want to fuck with that dude.
Yeah,
Um, he's incredible. I mean, he's so good, and it gets dark, man, and I kind of appreciate that. That it sort of stands on its own thing, and I love the whole anamorphic look that J.J. Abrams always brings. Um, I like that this is an entry in Mission Impossible because it could easily exist as a standalone thing, in my opinion.
yeah.
But I love that it's under the Mission Impossible kind of banner.
It's definitely, like, the darkest and dirtiest, not just by the look, it's also a very, like, dark film, especially, like, that main
Oh yeah,
sequence in that abandoned
yeah,
building, whatever, with the bomb. But it's just like you said it right, it's definitely the darkest one in terms of, like,
yeah,
themes and things that happen. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, number 3. What's your number 3?
Number 3 is Ghost Protocol.
Hell
I
yeah.
absolutely love this one. Like I said, I saw it in theaters. It was the first film I saw in a theater by myself, like, without
Yeah.
parents. not by
Yeah,
myself, but like with our parents. Because I remember me and my cousins, because me and my cousins, our moms and like us, like my two cousins, would always go to the cinema together. Like they would always just go together because they could chat beforehand, and then
sure.
we would be like quiet and just watch a film after. And then we'd always go to McDonald's, and it was this whole thing that we did as children. And then we were in the city with them, and we were like, "Oh, we want to watch a film." They were like, "We don't want to go to the cinema. We just want to like sit down and chat in a cafe." And we were like, "Can we go by ourselves?" And they said yes. And Mission Impossible was playing, so we went to see that shit, and
Oh yeah.
it was incredible. So it will always have a special place in my heart, just because the first non like first film I saw without adults, and it's a great film.
That's sick. That's a great. I
Yeah,
love when you have a great memory attached to a film. It
mhm.
makes it so much better.
Yeah, and Brad Bird directed this one. It's his first live action, and he just kills it,
Ratatouille.
man. He
Yeah,
kills.
real life incredible shit.
Yep.
Wild. Um, my number three. People at home are gonna forget any kind of credibility I've ever given myself. Mission Impossible 2 is my number three Mission Impossible
Mhm,
movie. Again, I like it for the same reasons, the exact same reasons why I like Mission Impossible 3. It
mhm,
stands alone as a completely unique and separate thing from everything else. And that kind of idiosyncrasy and that uniqueness, I can't help but appreciate that. Like I
mhm,
like when a franchise has some kind of uniformity, and Mission Impossible certainly has a uniformity to it. But like I said, 2 and 3, and that's why I mentioned earlier. I'm like, it's funny you group those together, and I also group them, but we just
mhm.
group them in polar opposite points of
Yeah.
like our listing. But it's the same kind of reason where it's a complete misstep. I mean, it really is. Like, I don't know who the fuck agreed to allow that to happen as a follow up sequel is insane
Mhm,
to me, but I'm happy it is. I love John Woo. I love the cinema of John Woo. I love the look and feel because it's a gaudy, just over the top, expressionistic, corny as all shit, but like in a great sleazy way that I love. It's I mean, it's like I said to you the other day, it's hard target with Tom Cruise.
yeah.
How could I not love this? Like this is the best thing ever. I think it's amazing. I love that it's its own thing. But I'm not ignorant to the fact of why people dislike it. It's obvious to me
Mhm.
why people don't like it. But for those reasons are the reasons why I really appreciate it. Not to be a contrarian, but because it just appeases my sensibilities, I guess.
Yeah, you love that style, and I need to rewatch it now that I've seen Hard Target because I hadn't seen it before, so maybe I'll appreciate
It'll
it more.
I think so. I don't think it'll creep up anywhere in your rankings. It'll probably
Nope.
stay there,
Yeah.
but I think you'll at least have a different appreciation of it, especially post Hard Target, being like, okay, like I get what he's doing here. Like it doesn't just feel like random bad choices. It's like, oh, this is just the John Woo choice, and it's crazy that they hired him. And why would he say no? Like it's not his fault. Why the fuck would he say no? They knew what they
Nope.
were getting, and he's like,
Dude,
I'll
he
give
made
you what you hired
yep,
me. I'm gonna give you John Woo, and he does that.
yep,
I can't hate on that shit. It's dope.
no. He made the shit he
It's
wanted to see, and he definitely did, so
yeah,
I
one
love him
hundred
for it.
percent. But the characters are fucking weird. Like the side chick, it's weird. Like the casting is awful,
Yeah.
but the story itself is, or the actual direction of the movie is fucking tight.
Mhm.
So number two,
Fallout.
yeah,
I love Fallout. It was my favorite Mission Impossible film before this number one came out, and it was just so incredible seeing it. It's one of the best action films I've ever seen. I love the bathroom fight. I think that's one of like the best choreographed sequences, and also love the ending. I mean, Tom Cruise literally learned how to fly a helicopter. He flew that shit himself while operating a camera to film
yeah,
himself. Like that is just insanity. The lengths this man will go through for the cinematic experience and the amount of like stuff he does to try to kill himself. He is the action star ever. I think I love Buster Keaton. I love you so much. Tom Cruise is just the man. He is an absolute legend, and I love him. I love Tom Cruise.
I agree. It is genuinely bewildering to me how anyone on this planet can dislike Tom Cruise, even with the Scientology shit. I'm like, of course he is a Scientologist, and I love that for him.
Dude,
I
I
love
don't know what. Mhm.
apparently he has a fucking penthouse in Clearwater, like close to me, because it's right across from the Scientology headquarters. So apparently, I've never seen him, but
You're calling
apparently
up
he's down here every now and then.
I visit
I
you.
I promise you, yeah. If I saw him in public, I would. I don't care how much of a fanboy I look like. I would demand to shake that man's hand. I don't even fuck a photo. Literally, I will
Yeah,
give me a good fucking handshake right now
mhm,
because you are the shit. Tom Cruise is the fucking man, dude. He's
yes, man.
unbelievable.
He is.
Honestly, once we go through the Gosling filmography, we might have to do a second pod where we go through Tom Cruise because he's
I'm
the
down.
fucking shit. He is the
I'm
shit,
down.
dude.
Please. Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that.
We'll do that. Tom Cruise is
Hell yeah.
amazing, and he has such an. I'm not going to get to it. We'll talk about it all day. My
Mhm.
number two is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One. Um,
Okay.
it is. This is one where, and I've always joked that it's always mission impossible to understand what is happening because it's the whole franchise is just set piece to set piece to set piece.
Mhm.
I'm fucking here for it. I never understand what the plot is in
Nope.
any of them. There's no shot. I don't
Nope.
ever get it. Because it's the most Hitchcockian MacGuffin ever that makes no sense. Mission Impossible 7, though, I actually kind of follow what's happening and I
Mhm.
fuck with it. It's like Hal from 2001 Space Odyssey going sentient. And it's like, I just love that they like made AI like the fucking villain of it. And
Yeah.
that's so sick. And the action's incredible. I think, I think the fucking like everyone talks about the him jumping off the cliff with the bike as being like the craziest shit ever. I think the car chase that they do in Italy is like one of the greatest car chases I've ever seen. Like French Connection level shit.
Mhm.
Like one of the all time great car chases I've ever seen.
Yeah, that car chase scene is incredible where he's like handcuffed and he's driving like this old, like
The
super
Fiat,
small car. And there's
yeah,
also like, great jokes in it as well. And it's just they knew what they were doing with this AI villain, and I
oh
think it
yeah,
will age even better. I mean, we already did, and dude, I cannot wait to see like what's next because they already like
oh, I
filmed, I
can't
think,
wait.
most of it. So it's
Fuck
just a matter
yes,
of time. I think
it's
next
supposed to
year,
be 2025 from what I heard.
I think so as well. And
Yeah.
after that, he's going to space. I mean, this man is just ain't stopping, man. He ain't
I
stopping.
can't wait for the future. I can't wait for the future of it. Well, that leads us into your number one, which is just a continuation of my number two.
Yep, it's Dead Reckoning. I completely understand what you're saying, like, and I agree with like with the other films. It's so hard to follow the plot, and it's not about following the plot. You don't have to. You
Yeah,
just appreciate where it goes. And a lot of this franchise, like this, is like, oh, what you say, like it's just like twist after twist after twist. Like
yeah.
you pull up their
The
mask, like, oh, it's
masks.
medium tight time. That's like another mask. Like this
Yeah,
is what this franchise is and what it's known for. With this one, it's definitely easier to follow while
yeah.
still being batshit insane. And this dude, I love McQuarrie. I love Tom Cruise. Like you said, I if I saw him in real
I
life,
want what
fuck
they
the
have.
picture, fuck the autograph. I just want a handshake. I just want to
Yeah.
in a position to say like I shook Tom Cruise's hand. Dude, this man.
Have you seen that meme from that dude on the plane who's like, "I want to shake your hand.
I want to
Let me
shake
shake
this.
your hand."
I just want to shake
That
your hand.
that would be me if I ever saw Tom Cruise in public.
Same.
Just going through his security guards. I want to shake your
I
hand.
just want to
Let me
shake your
shake your
hand,
hand.
man.
Dude, I would dap up that man so goddamn hard. Tom Cruise.
Mhm.
Okay, guys, we will have a Tom Cruise pod at some point. That this man is the fucking shit.
You gotta get him on
That
here,
leads me
man.
to we got to, dude. I would cry. I would fucking cry.
Same.
Um,
Same.
my number one is Ghost Protocol. I
Hell yeah.
think Ghost Protocol is one of the best action, spy, espionage, suspense thrillers maybe ever made. I genuinely think it's fucking incredible. I love the cast too. I mentioned Paula
Mhm.
Patton. I love that character that she's in there. She's so good. I love this is the first time that Simon Pegg is introduced. Right? Yeah, he wasn't in the third.
Yep.
Jeremy Renner. I love that he was in it, and then Rogue Nation. He kind of takes a step back.
Do you
Um,
know why Jeremy
why
Renner
what?
is well, they wanted to get Tom Cruise out of there. Jeremy Renner was supposed to be the replacement,
To take over.
take over, and that never happened. Thank God. I love
And then
Jeremy Renner, but
I do too. But this is the Tom show. You just got to
this
end it with Tom. No one else is
If
playing
he's
this shit
done,
except
this
him.
franchise is done. Like, there's
Yeah,
no way.
I'm here for it. But yeah, I remember kind of hearing something like that. But yeah, no, I didn't think about that actually until you
Mhm.
just said it now. But the whole sequence of him at the Burj Khalifa climbing up. Okay, Ghost Protocol, by the way, mind you, is the only Mission Impossible film I've seen in theaters. I saw it when it came out.
Mhm.
I went with my dad, but to me, it was just like my dad wanted to see it. He loves action movies like this, and I just went. But like, I didn't. I don't know that I had even seen any of the other Mission Impossibles. I definitely wasn't keeping up after. Like, I had no connection to it.
Mhm.
I just saw it as a thing, and I remember thinking like, this movie is fucking sick. And then all these years go by where I never watched any of the others or anything like that. And then I come back to it again, like a few weeks ago or last month or whenever I rewatched it, and I mean, dude, I was still rocked, even though kind of knowing and somewhat remembering the beats, I was still rocked. And I've since have watched it two more times. I have not logged it in Letterboxd every time, but I've since watched it two more times. I can't stop
Like,
putting it on, even if it's just in the background. I will stop working and doing everything once I see him putting those gloves on to climb on. I'm like, I'm going to watch this next 20 minutes uninterrupted because it's maybe the most suspenseful shit I have ever seen in my life.
he
Ever.
was on there. Like, he was.
He was
That's not
on that
CGI.
shit.
He was
It makes no
on there. There's a
sense. He's
picture
crazy.
where he was on like the top, on the roof. It's like a
Yes. He's
selfie. Like,
insane.
dude.
I gotta shake his hand. How many times do I gotta say it? I gotta shake that man's fucking hand. I
Yep.
can't believe he does this for a living. I
Mhm.
He's not rich enough. He should be richer. I want to start a
Yep.
GoFundMe, guys. Donate to the GoFundMe. We're gonna donate every dollar to Tom Cruise because he should be richer because what he's doing is unfucking believable. He's not rich enough, frankly, in my opinion.
And he doesn't care, man. He does not
He doesn't
care.
give
Like,
a shit, man. He's fucking awesome.
filmmaking, entertaining people, that's his life. Like, he is born to be an action star, and he is the biggest action star.
It's
And
unbelievable what this guy does.
absolutely, there's also one fun thing about Ghost Protocol, which why it should be higher in my list, but it also features a Bosnian actor. So
Oh, who?
an actor from like my home country, which I just love, like because I I grew up with like watching him on like Bosnian comedy shows, like Luzbuni
Yeah.
Normalan, and he's
Which
just like
actor was it?
it was. Let me find
Or
his
which
name.
character?
He was the prisoner in the beginning.
Oh shit, the one that
The,
he like escapes and frees, and then he kind of comes back
yeah, the
later
Russian.
on. Yeah.
He plays
Yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah.
Russian guy, like Serbian, I think. I don't know what
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was.
yeah.
He's from Bosnia.
Oh
His
no
name
shit.
is.
He's a comedy guy though.
He was in like this big comedy show in Bosnia called Luzbuni Normalan. So that's how he
Okay.
got like really famous. And I always watched that with my parents. And then seeing him, because I was with my cousins in the theater and we saw him and we're like, holy shit,
Oh
it's that
shit.
guy. Like that just blew
Yeah.
our minds to see someone like that in like a major Hollywood film. Good for him.
Yeah.
I love that man.
That's awesome. It's clear he kind of came. I didn't know he was like that, like popular or anything or famous like that. But it's clear he came from a comedy background. Like watching, it's
Yep.
like this dude comes from comedy.
Yep.
Um, And one thing I forgot to mention is Leia Seydoux or Seydoux, however the fuck you say her name,
Mhm.
making that amazing, amazing appearance in Ghost
Yep.
Protocol. I think Ghost Protocol has my favorite characters of all the Mission Impossible movies, to be honest with you. And
Same.
there's no Rebecca Ferguson yet either, and she's great, but she's not in it. Um, but I think it has my favorite characters of all, like even the villains. I love everyone in that movie.
Yeah, definitely. Like, but with each one going forward, I think also like because I love the next one, like Rebecca Ferguson. I love her character.
Yeah.
I love obviously Henry Cavill's character, but this one definitely has like the most stacked cast. I think
Oh yeah,
Leia
dude, it's
Seydoux just
crazy.
makes an appearance. She's in all of these, man. She's in James Bond, and Mission Impossible, Dune. She just gets in
She can't be
all of these. Like,
stopped.
dude,
She can't be stopped.
she is busy and booked, and good for her. She's amazing.
Yeah. Well, let's move on because we'll have one other small topic to talk about
Mm.
before we get into our movie for today. Another thing that I've caught up with that I desperately need to discuss with you about. I bring it up now because it's a perfect transition mentioning Olea.
Yep.
I saw Dune Part 2 last night.
Let's go.
I rewatched Dune last week. I'm here for that shit. I kind of completely get it now.
Mhm.
Um, I famously, when it first came out, was kind of pissed off by it because it just ended, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Even
Yeah.
though they do the exact same. Spoiler alert, by the way, since this just came out. Quick spoiler for Dune 2 if you've not seen it yet. Please skip forward because we gonna spoil this shit right now, real quick. I'm
Oh,
sorry. Skip forward maybe 10 minutes or something. They do the same exact thing with Dune 2, though. Like it's the exact same thing where it ends up in the same way. And what it did was, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I genuinely want to order all 6 books, and I want to read all of them because I just can't. I cannot wait however many years because Denis is saying he wants to do another movie before Messiah, like a
yeah.
separate thing.
Mhm.
So it could very well be like fucking 5, 6 years before we get that. So I can't wait that. Like I got to know what happens. I have to know. I have to
Mhm.
know.
I'm currently on book 3,
Is that
and
Children
that's
of
Children of
Dune?
Dune. And this shit is just bananas, and it keeps getting crazier. And seriously,
I have a
like people,
question.
yeah.
Does reading it ruin at all your appreciation or anything of the movie, or like, oh, I got to know what happens? Like, very rarely have I read a book first and then seen the movie.
Mhm.
It's usually the other way around for
I
me.
read I read book 1 before the first film and before this one, obviously.
Just
So
yeah,
I knew the plot, and
yeah,
it didn't take away anything for me. I wasn't mad because there's stuff that is not in the film. There's also stuff added in the film. There's also differences. There are people who are like, this was not in the book. This was different because, for
yeah,
example, Alia, his sister, she
yeah.
in the book, like she's not in the womb. She is a little toddler. She's like 3 years old, but she already talks like an adult and she freaks everyone out. And at
Oh, no
first,
fucking way.
I thought they were gonna like have a little kid, but then
Yeah,
have it so she has like an adult face.
like Anya Taylor Joy, like
And you feel
stitched
joy,
on
her
to yeah,
face, her voice, but like a kid. I think that is something that like David Lynch would have maybe done.
one
He had a
hundred
child.
percent,
Yeah,
one
I thought they
hundred
were gonna
percent.
go that direction, but I liked that she wasn't born yet, that she was talking through
Yeah,
the mother, through the womb, and with her, and I think that's a great choice. And also in the
interesting.
book, spoiler alert, they had a kid, Paul and Chani. They had a son called Leto too.
At what point? And what book is this? What book does this
That is
happen?
still the first. That is the first.
Really?
So there's
In Dune.
Dune. The first Dune book
Okay.
are the first 2
I need
films.
no I can't handle any Messiah spoilers.
No, no, no.
But
That I'm
okay.
not gonna
Okay.
spoil
Okay.
that. So
Okay.
they had a. I'm just talking about what like differences from the
From
first book
Dune.
of
Oh,
Dune.
okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
So they had a time skip in the book. In the film, they don't do the time skip where like Alia's born, where Paul and Chani they have a son. The son dies, and yeah, he dies in that final battle, like beforehand. And his mom and his sister they get they get yeah like, I guess kidnapped by the Baron. And then Paul shows up
Damn.
in
Okay.
the throne room, and that was one
Damn.
thing. I was fully expecting them to do a time jump, and I was expecting them like Zendaya and Timothy like to have a little child, their son, but they didn't do that,
Yeah.
which I also don't mind because it's a different medium and not everything works
Yeah.
in film, and a time jump would have taken the momentum out of it. So there are people who are mad about it, but I'm not. So it really depends on. I think you have a different appreciation, like a different viewpoint, because you know how it's a different medium, how you have to. I don't think your perspective will change that much of the
Okay.
films.
Okay. 'Cause I kind of think I want to like get all the books, like the set,
Mhm,
start like read Dune proper,
mhm.
and then go into it because I have to know what the fuck happened. Like I cannot wait 5 years. I just can't.
It's gonna be crazy. Like
Yeah.
people who haven't read the books, they're not gonna be able to handle Messiah.
Yeah, I can't. And I also heard something how like when he falls into the coma after drinking the water of life or whatever, like he was actually like out for like a long time in that coma, wasn't he? Like
I think
years or
three.
months or something.
It was I think 3 weeks in the book, or like
Okay.
3 months. But
And then like
here's
in the movie, like it was like a day or something, like he was kind of out of it or something like
and
that.
not even. he was like
Yeah, a
barely,
few hours.
but it
Yeah.
makes sense because you have to have this momentum in this film, and it would have slowed the film down at the
Yeah. Like you
wrong.
said, two completely different mediums. They got to operate differently.
You can do it in a book, but in a film,
Yeah.
it just takes you out of it a little bit and slows
Cuz
down the
during
pacing.
during that time in Dune when he does take that and he's at, like in that coma for 3 weeks or 3 months or whatever, is there a bunch of other shit that's happening that he's just not at all in during this time and then they come back they're like, "Holy shit, Paul woke up."
Yeah, but it's not as significant because they keep it on the reps. They're like, oh, he's
Okay.
meditating, he's preparing for the big fight. And
I
so all
see.
the like the other people, all the Fremen, they're like, oh, he's just like preparing.
All
He's
right.
preparing for this holy war.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
I mean, this movie was really fantastic. I think Javier Bardem gives like a straight up hilarious performance.
Mhm.
There was so many like actual laugh out loud funny moments with him every time. Like Paul just like fucking blinks. He's like, "Lisa no Gaib," as it was written. It's so funny, and it's very evident that this is like kind of an allegory for I don't know about like Christianity, but like religion in general, maybe. But especially when they were talking about like the South and the fundamentalists in the South, I'm like that's so funny. That's just like all the super Christian fundamentalists in the South United States and like Georgia, Alabama, you know what I mean, Mississippi. Like I was like, oh,
Mhm.
that's kind of a funny analogy there. But it
But
was again, I agree. Kind of, you're like, set your expectations lower because everyone's like, this is the greatest thing. My expectations weren't there anyway. But to answer your question, it is not the greatest film that's ever been made ever. But I'm fucking on board for the whole thing, and I can't wait for it to come out because I want to sit down and watch the whole thing in one go.
mhm.
So
There's
I
also
cannot
a
wait for
show
that to come out.
that's coming out
I
about
heard
like,
about that.
yeah, we talked about it. I think I mentioned it briefly. And yeah, he's gonna do a break. But I have one question. Do
Yeah.
you prefer the first or the second film?
As of right now, the first, but that's because I honestly have watched the first one a lot in the last week. Like it's been on all the time.
Mhm,
Um, so that's why, and I've only just seen this so freshly.
mhm.
I might go fuck around and see Doom Part 2 in IMAX again, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, and I might have a different answer for you. As
Mhm,
of right now, though, the first one, though, I love the way it's set up, and the ending of this one is very satisfying too. Which I will say gives it some points because I did not find the ending in theaters in IMAX at all rewarding in the first one. But this one I did. Even though it's the same idea that it's like cliffhanger and it kind of just ends, I I felt this one was more like I appreciated the ending in the moment. Back then, I hated the ending in theaters. It wasn't until I rewatched it now where I'm like, that was pretty sick. Like
mhm.
it left off in a good way, and I really enjoyed it. So,
Maybe
if
because
anything, I guess the second one has that going for it. Maybe
yeah, with the first one, you don't really know where it's going. With the second one, it ends. It doesn't end, but it's a more satisfying end because you can
you
wait.
know
With the
what'll
last one,
happen.
you need to know how the story
Yeah,
continues. This one's like, oh, there's gonna be like a little break,
yeah. It's
and
evident that like something is coming and like impending, but it's not like as immediately pressing. Whereas the first one's like, oh, this is like halfway through a story, which makes sense. It's half a book that they adapted.
mhm.
Imagine if they fucking adapted half of Jaws, right? And like it just ends once they go out into the boat. And it's like,
Yeah,
well, what about Jaws though? Do they kill him? Because we don't have that whole second hour. It's the
mhm.
same idea.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree. So that's why I think it works a lot better this second time around.
Mhm. I like the
Which
first
I
one
want to
a
go
bit
ahead.
more. I like the first one a
Yeah,
bit. They're both like 5 stars films for me, but the first one, I like the slowness of the first one,
yeah,
and because the second one is more packed, it doesn't, and that's going forward. Like just nonstop. It just pumps out, and but the first one's a lot slower. It builds this world, which it has to, because a lot of people don't know this world. They don't know these characters. That's why I appreciate it more. But I mean, they're like a set, and they're amazing together. So.
yeah. I'm very much looking forward to, like I said, getting Dune Part Two on Blu-ray.
Mhm.
Um, Getting the first Dune on Blu-ray, which I don't have. Hopefully, I can get a nice set of that. But I really
Mhm.
kind of want to rewatch David Lynch's Dune again. now that I actually have an understanding of the world and the characters and what's happening, like when I watched Dune for the first time years ago, I didn't
Mhm.
know what the fuck. Like I didn't know anything about Dune, so I'm like, this is just beyond me. So I feel like at least having some kind of pre-existing knowledge of this world that's been fledged out really well by Denis and the whole crew, I think I can appreciate David Lynch's version probably a little bit more in that
You
way. So
you either like it more or hate it more.
because of it, yeah,
Yeah. That definitely, like,
that's
there's
true.
no middle ground, like, you're either gonna hate it more because you know, like, how the story goes, or you're just gonna, like it's yeah. I don't
Because
like
it's, I
this one.
mean, it's the two movies in one, and it's tough. And you know, David Lynch is literally my guy, but
He hates this film, though. He didn't get
yeah,
final cut.
Alan Smithy is the director on it. If you watch it now, he doesn't even have his name in the credits anymore. Um, yeah, it's I don't know. I'm curious to rewatch it though, with now having it regardless. So we'll see.
Mhm.
We'll see. But yeah, should we get into the movie for this week? Our boy
Mhm.
Ryan Gosling's film Lost River.
Hell yeah, let's go into it. Okay, so Lost River, like I said, it's his directorial debut. It's his first and so far, sadly, only done, which is a shame in my
Hmm.
opinion because he's a really great director, and this is a very like mm, it's a very interesting film because it's like a fairy tale in a way, but also deals with very like important issues. So pretty much it's about these like this lost river. There's these like little towns that are pretty much being emptied out. Like people aren't living there anymore. They're like tearing down houses and things like that. And they're like real places in Detroit, which
Hmm.
Ryan Gosling grew up close to. He said in an interview like it was enough far away where
I saw that interview. Yeah,
yeah, but that he didn't like know, but he's still like close enough that he knew they were there, and he sort of had like a crush on Detroit.
yeah.
Just was always fascinated by it. And yeah, it follows this story of this family, and they're still there. They're struggling with money, with paying off their house, and the mom has to take a new job to pay for the house because they're trying to tear it down. And you've seen this one before
Hmm.
once,
Once prior, yeah.
once prior. What did you think about this film back then and then on rewatch now? Did you like it? Did you like it more? How was your experience?
Honestly, I think my initial reaction, if I'm being honest, I think I liked it less the second time around.
Okay.
I I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's a movie that you absolutely have to be in a mental space where you're like, I am ready for this now. Not because I'm doing it for a pod or not because it's just like I'm ready for Lost River. Like I feel it in me. Um, and I don't know that I was in that. I was curious to see it again for sure, but there wasn't that like yearning in me. Like my mind was all Dune. You know what I mean? Like my mind was not on Lost River. Um, I appreciate what he does, but honestly, a lot of it, especially when I rewatched, it feels very much like a first director's film. In that, I mean, there's a lot of moments where I feel like he has these thoughts where it's like I have to have a tracking shot because every movie has a tracking shot where we're sideways and they walk. But I'm like, why are we like spending so much time doing this, and why do we have all these random cutaways to things that it feels like stuff like there was a checklist of like what kind of shots you must have, and
Mm.
to me, I felt like he was kind of just crossing those off. Um, Also, I did not quite remember how Terrence Malick influenced this movie secretly is, and you know, I have a deep disdain for Terrence Malick post 1998. So, yeah, there was
Yeah.
that aspect of it too.
Especially like the beginning with the little kid walking like through the
Yeah,
grass. I was like also wrote down a couple notes. I was like, that is very like Malik inspired.
oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The way that he cuts it together too.
Yeah. But it also like he was there first without like planning to make a film. He was with his red
Yeah,
camera and just filming stuff. And then later he's like, oh, I think there's a movie here. So he made a film. And then he also put in the shots he had previous. So it's a blend of shot on film, 35 millimeter, which we
yeah,
have to shout
beautiful.
out.
Looks
Um,
incredible.
yeah, but also like digital. a couple of scenes that he also had like filmed prior to it, which I
Yeah.
think that's where like your issue comes in, like these shots that don't really make sense for you, um, but he had, so he wanted to include. But yeah, I really like this one. It's actually one of my favorite films. I think it would definitely be in like my top 150 or something. It's not like
Damn. Okay.
very far, but like I like this one just because of how dreamy it is from the score, just the images. I mean, Benoit Debie, the DP in this one, I love him,
Hmm.
and just the colors of it, and also like the song by Saoirse Ronan that she
Yeah.
sings, like that is just I listen to that just from time to time, just by
A
itself,
great
just
tune.
because amazing, and it just encapsulate this feeling of this film, which I really like. And what I also find interesting is he, when making this, he pulled in actors he knew, like he was familiar with, because Christina Hendricks, he worked on Drive.
Yep.
Mendes, obviously his wife. Ben Mendelsohn from The Place Beyond the
Place
Pines.
Beyond Times.
Saoirse Ronan, he almost starred in My Lovely Bones, I think, but then didn't get
He
the
didn't
part
end up doing
because
it. Yeah.
he was too fat. Remember that story where he just
Is
put
that
on
because
too
of Blue
much weight?
Valentine?
I think that was for My Lovely Bones, wasn't it?
No, but what is that? What he gained the weight for? Was that because he was coming down from the weight of Blue Valentine?
No, I think that the director said like, isn't that what Mark told us? Like the director said like, oh, he wanted to make his own interpretation of the character, and
Yeah.
he wanted to go like whole method.
Oh, and
Like
he showed. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
showed
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the director was like, "What are you doing? Like your character should not." And he
Yes.
just fired him, I think. But they
Yes.
parted
Peter
ways.
Jackson. Yes.
Peter Jackson, like, yeah, but he like had like with Saoirse Ronan, they had some screen tests. So the only guys like Matt Smith, he hadn't worked
Yeah.
with, and he came over from Doctor Who fame, and Ian DeCasticker, who he just started shooting Agents of Shield. That show, like, was in the middle of it. So those are the only two, and I really like that he brought in like actors he was friends with or did things with, and I think that really speaks for the film.
Yeah.
And how did you like the?
Sorry, I keep giggling just because I'm reading some quotes of Ryan Gosling's from the My Lovely Bones
Mhm.
debacle. He has a quote where he goes, "Yeah, Peter Jackson disapproved of the 60 pounds I put on from quote unquote melting Haagen Dazs and then drinking it." And then he goes, uh, he goes, "We didn't talk very much during the pre-production, which was, a part of the problem. It was a
Mhm.
huge movie, and there were so many things to deal with, and he couldn't deal with the actors individually. So I showed up on set, and I had gotten it wrong. Then, before you know it, I was fat and unemployed."
Damn, poor guy, man. I think he would have been great in that role, but I think that's sort of where his appreciation and this one comes in. Like he's an actor himself, obviously, but I think
Yeah,
also with the experience, he just knew that giving your actors like the freedom and talking to them very important. I think it shines in this film, like Ben Mendelsohn. It wasn't even planned that he does his dance. He just wanted to
yeah,
do it.
yeah. I
Like
saw
Ryan
that.
Gosling told him, like, just do it, and he kills it. It's a very funny sequence. And what do you think? Like, because with this film, a lot of the reviews said it's more style over substance. Do you
Yeah.
definitely agree with this one?
Do I agree with that?
Yeah, with like that
Oh yeah.
argument.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It's all atmosphere. There is no plot to the film really at all. It's strung
Mhm.
along, which I don't mind. Like that's not. I like films that don't have plots, and like I can appreciate that. But I definitely agree with that. It's all atmosphere. It's all mood. Which when we get into our films, at least for mine, I think we'll see a common thread that I think all four of the films that I picked for my literally me picks for this are all films that lack plot and are simply atmospheric kind of exercises in a way.
Interesting. Looking forward to those because I chose a different approach. This one
Interesting.
was, which is very like special to this episode. But before we get into this one, also one thing like I said, there's one thing I wrote down, like you said, like the influences from people he's worked before. I can definitely tell. And I think
Hmm.
Malik, I don't think he has worked with
I
before. I think
thought about that. It was pre like 3 years.
okay. So it might have just been like personal preference, but
I think
yeah,
it's clear he was a huge fan of Malik. I think it's obvious watching this that he loves Terrence Malick.
mhm. But also like Refn, I think you can see
Oh
like
hell
that
yeah.
influence, San Franz and others.
He
And
clearly loves David Lynch. They never worked together, but it's clear he fucking
yeah.
idolizes that man based on this
Mhm.
movie.
Yeah, just so the subtle, like not even references, but like the subtle influences. You can tell with a director like who are the people he looked up to
Oh
when
yeah.
watching. And
Which I love in filmmakers. That's one of the things I love most about directors is being able to see like who they're influenced by.
mhm,
That is one part of this that I really love is that Ryan Gosling like really wears his influences on his sleeves, on
mhm,
his sleeve in this film, and is very upfront about those films through the way that he tells his story.
mhm,
Um, like there's a lot of stuff I like about it, but I just don't know that I love the movie. But there's a
mhm.
lot of stuff in it that I like about it, 100%.
You know, like Matt Smith going around with a megaphone, yelling like, Look at my
I
muscles."
fucking love that. I love
That's
that. It's
amazing.
amazing. He is fucking menacing in that
He came up
movie.
with that. Like
That
Gosling just
sequence.
yeah, Gosling nah, in general, like Gosling just he showed up because he saw him in Doctor Who. Like he said he just
Uh-huh.
walked in a room and Doctor Who was like playing in the background and he just looked at him and he was the scene where he like talks on like a microphone, like telling aliens to get the frick
Yeah.
out of there. And he just thought like, dude, this guy has a voice. Like he's very like
Yeah.
pretty intimidated, intimidating. And so he just let him make this character on his own. He said like he's never seen anything like it before. Just the way he
Yeah.
acted,
He
which
doesn't
was
he I mean, he does an incredible job in the movie. He is one of the most like menacing kind of
he's
characters.
crazy.
He's insane. The way and especially with his hair all fucking buzzy, it's like that kind of like scar cut thing.
Yep.
It's pretty intense, dude. And it's
Mm,
especially that sequence where they're driving in the truck and he's just like fucking staring, and they're kind of going back and forth between her and him. And it's
mm.
like a very intimidating thing. Or he's watching the kid fucking run off with like the bag of copper and whatnot. Like
Yeah.
it's very, very intimidating. He killed it. He might win the movie for me, honestly. That dude. I think he might be the best part of it.
He's an amazing part. And I also liked that when they were at the gas station, first of all, that was like very intense where he's talking to her and later cuts off like a rat with like a scissor,
Yeah.
which is crazy. But
Fuck,
there's
fucking
one
weird.
there's one scene and Ryan Gosling talked about how they filmed at this gas station and was the only gas station around. You've probably like seen
I
the
watched this. I watched the same interview. I think that you mentioned. It's a fucking
okay.
amazing. But please tell the story, please. It's amazing.
So it was the only gas station around for like I don't know, like 10 miles or whatever.
Yeah.
And while they were filming, people like just gathered and they really wanted to get to that gas station
Yeah.
for other reasons. Probably like there was something in that gas station that they wanted.
Yeah.
So then they kind of just let them walk into frame and like on the set. And then there was this one woman, I think her name was
Mama A.
Mama A,
I
and
think so.
Matt
Yeah.
Smith just like pulled her into like the scene, and there's in the film you see like them interacting, and she's a
Yeah.
character. She's a
Yeah.
real character in the way they interact, and I really like that about it because these are real places, these are real issues, and they shot there, and they let people who live there into these films. You had the guys who so, like bought the copper. You had the neighbors.
Hmm.
You had this woman, and I think it's very like you can tell they're amateurs. They're obviously not actors. That just adds to the realness in contrast to like the fairy tale elements to it, which I just really like.
Oh
And I
yeah.
like that he did that and how intimate he got with both the actors and just like the people living there. And I really like it. Like you can tell that this was made by an actor.
Yeah. And in the beginning too, like with that dude who's like moving, like in the opening scene, it's
Mhm.
clear he's a local dude. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it feels like documentary like in the very beginning, before the fantasy really like takes hold. Like it always still feels off and atmospheric and like weirdly moody, but in the beginning, like it much feels like a documentary, and that is something that I think is really a cool way to open a pure surreal fantasy movie. You know?
And I need Ryan Gosling because I like this one, but also if you don't like this one, you can tell that Ryan Gosling definitely has like a very unique
Yeah,
perspective and style that he slowly, like I think slowly through this film he discovers, and I wish he would make more. And there's one thing with that like bar that they're at, like that horror cafe where
yeah,
the women
yeah,
are putting up these horror shows. Like I need Ryan Gosling to make like an old school horror film because like that
yeah.
scene where she just rips off her face and things like
Oh,
that,
bro.
it's
Yeah,
insane. You can tell he loves this shit. We talked about it last like the previous episode. Like
yeah.
we need Ryan Gosling like an
With
old
Dead
school.
Man's Bones. Yeah.
Yep. Werewolf by Night.
Imagine
Like
that him directing like a Universal horror movie or something like that, and Dead Man's Bones doing like the score.
I wish I don't know if that was ever the plan, but like we need that.
We need that to
We need
exist.
that. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I do agree though. I hope he makes something else. I wonder if he has interest in making anything else and he just hasn't been able to, or he's just kind of whatever.
Yeah, the reception on this one wasn't well, so I could see him being discouraged, but I hope not. Like if there's something he wants to do, especially like an old school horror, like I just see him like killing that. So
I
I hope
agree.
one day we'll get
I
another
agree. I agree.
Gosling
I
film.
agree. And I hope he makes, because I mean, I've talked about it as well. The choices that he's been making recently
Mhm.
don't feel as inspired as choices like doing Lost River. They
Yep.
seem like the obvious, let's make some money and provide for my family kind of choices, which there's no shame in that. But this era of Gosling, which it's exciting for our pod because we're entering this era of Gosling that is maybe the most creatively impactful that he's ever done and creatively stimulating that he's ever done. But in reverse real timeline, we're at a point where he's still doing creative stuff and awesome things like Ken and stuff, but it's not this. It's not Place Beyond the Pines. It's not Drive. It's not, any of these other films that he was doing around this time, Blue Valentine. He's not doing that anymore, and I miss that. I would love to see him direct another film.
Well, now he's on this like height of his career. He's never, I mean, he's always been like popular, but not like this popular. So
Yeah,
now he has like the resources. I think if he were to say like I want to direct, he wouldn't have
he
like
could
the small
easily.
budget. I think people would just throw money at him. So I would hope so.
I
If
would I
he,
would throw money at him for that shit.
hell yeah, same. So I think
I
now is like the
yeah,
perfect time. Like he has the opportunity. I think he's more popular than ever. So if he really wants to make something, I hope he just goes for it. And I
I
need
agree.
another Gosling film.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. Um, yeah, I'm curious to know, did you have any favorite characters out of this? I know we kind of talked about Matt Smith and all that, but
Mhm.
anyone that you think, I mean, I guess if we're doing our only, I'm sorry, our literally me, since
Mhm.
Ryan's not in this, who
Mhm.
in this film would kind of be like that literally me character for you?
That's a good question. I like Bones because I like Ian
Yeah,
DeCasticker. I kind of grew up
yeah.
with him watching Agents of Shield. I don't know if you were really familiar with him
No,
because he hasn't really done a lot apart from that, but he's really great in Agents of Shield. Like he's one of the
I saw
best
him in
characters.
Overlord, that movie Overlord.
Haven't seen that one.
Oh, that's a cool movie. Yeah.
He's in it.
Yeah, it's that one where they like the Nazis are like zombies or something.
I've
Or there's
heard
like
about.
it's pretty
Yeah,
badass and it's pretty you would like it, I think. It's pretty badass.
I need to check it out. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
he and I also like Saoirse Ronan's character a lot. The way she takes
she's cool.
care of
Yeah.
like her grandma, which is like a super sad story. Like she just watches like these old marriage videos of her husband and
Yeah. Yeah.
tragic what happens to her. Um, but yeah, I think that's an easy choice. I don't think Matt Smith or Ben Mendelsohn. I think they're a little bit too crazy to be literally
Yeah,
me. They're fun to watch. How about
I
you?
agree. I think I agree with your choices. Like it would
Mhm,
probably be Bones. Like I him trying to hold down for his family
mhm,
um doing whatever he's got to do to make it. Not that I identify with everything with him, but I think he's a good sort of literally me figure for this film. Um,
Okay, so
but I'm
from 1 to 10 copper wires,
good
how
one.
much
Mm.
literally me would he be?
I think I'm like 6 copper wires, maybe
Mhm. Yeah,
like
6
5 or 6.
for me as well. 5 or 6, I think that's a good
Right in
weight.
the middle. I think it's while literally, we're not literally very much in line. I feel like in terms of the thought and sort of the mentality, I
Mhm.
think that much I can definitely say, ah, he's literally me, as
Yeah.
opposed to maybe some of the more literal choices that he made.
Mhm. Definitely, because he's a very different position in life, but sort of his mindset, like going back to doing those things, even though like very dangerous because it's not his territory,
Yeah,
and like caring for his family. So yeah.
100%. Well, I'm curious to get into our literally me picks. I really want to know. Yeah, I know you mentioned that you had a kind of a different approach to it. What approach is this?
So what I did for this episode, I went to actors who directed something. So actors directorial debut films, pretty much. So in the sense of like Ryan Gosling, this was his first film. He
Yeah,
started as an actor. I chose other actors who made some very cool and unique films that
interesting.
I
Okay, so I
picked.
like that we both had some two cool approaches to it.
Mhm.
Mine are all movies without plot. Yours are all by directors. Well, let's get you want to kick it off or shall I?
You can go first.
Okay, I'll go in descending order. This one's a little bit more recent. It's a movie by a director who I love. But it's not it's funny. I don't know that I love all of these movies that I pick, to be honest.
Interesting.
But I do think Gosling would look at them and be like, literally me.
Mhm.
Um, and that is the 2022 film to kick it off, Crimes of the Future by David Cronenberg.
Okay.
Um, it's a movie that I didn't love. I was so excited to see that Cronenberg was making another movie after like almost 10 years, and he was, kind of return to form. But the thing that stuck out to me is that Crimes of the Future has a plot, quote unquote, but it's really more so just kind of looking at this weird sort of group that Viggo Mortensen and Kristen Stewart are a part of, and how they use the body as a form of entertainment and how they fuck with the body for entertainment. And that kind of reminded me of sort of that horror, the horror show where you see Ava Mendes is faking getting murdered, and Christina Hendricks is getting her fucking face pulled off. And to me, it reminded me of Crimes of the Future, like those parties that they would have where they would go and look at these people getting dissected and shit. And it's that same kind of fascination with like morbid shit that people are really into, that I was like, I could see him really being big on this. And also another great Leia Sado connection there. So, yeah, I Crimes of the Future. Did you see this movie when it came out?
I haven't. Unfortunately, I really
Okay.
want to, but I didn't yet. But that's such a great pick because of that comparison. Like those horror cafes, which actually existed in Paris. People went there
Yeah.
just to watch like this gruesome like stuff happening. So that's a really great connection.
Yeah. Thanks. I think I think you would appreciate the movie. I certainly appreciate it.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I don't really love it. It's way down there in my Cronenberg rankings, and I don't know how
Mhm.
much I've talked about Cronenberg on the pod or with you in general, but some people might know that is one of my dudes. I fucking love Cronenberg. So,
Yeah,
yeah, Crimes of the Future from 2022.
great pick. I need
Currently
to
on
watch.
Hulu, by the way. Yeah, currently on Hulu in the States.
Mhm. We talked about Cronenberg a little bit because of like his son and like
Brandon, yeah.
yeah, those films. But that's a really great pick. I gotta check it
His
out.
daughter his daughter's about to direct something too.
I sent that to you
Yeah, that's
immediately.
right. I
When I
wanted to make sure we brought it up on the pod. Yeah.
Yeah. When I saw that, I immediately thought like, "Oh, I need to send this to Tristan because we need to like watch this when it comes out because we also already talked about his son." So
Yeah.
I'm excited to
I,
see
I'm
what
looking
you.
forward to that. Also, another one that I'll mention now before I forget.
Mhm.
Another, shall we call it nepotism? Another nepotism film coming out. M. Night Shyamalan's daughter directing a film,
No way.
starring Dakota Fanning.
What's it called? Do you
I think
know?
it's called The Watchers, or something like that.
I thought that was like him. I didn't know that was his daughter.
It's her. He's producing it, of course.
Oh, I
But
thought there was a
yeah,
new film
her
by him.
her name is Shauna Shyamalan.
Shana.
Shyamalan.
Damn. I'm
She and
excited
I
for
guess
that.
she's been like, yeah, again, nepo shit. She's been like the second unit director, I think, on like some of his like past, like Old and Knock at the
Yep.
Cabin Wood. So she's gotten some practice in. Like I feel like she'll probably put something together good. But at first
Mm,
I thought it was him, and then I looked. I was like, oh shit, that's his daughter.
mhm.
That's not even him. But that interesting. Looking forward to seeing that.
Because we talked about trailer. I think you sent the trailer to me or something. I remember we like briefly talked about
We
it.
discussed it briefly. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said,
Um.
I thought it was him. But that's cool. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so
What's your first pick for the literally
for
me?
my first pick, I went with Paul Dano and his first film called Wildlife. Which
Oh shit.
have you seen this
Yeah.
one?
No, that's the one with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal and Carey Mulligan.
Yeah.
It's pretty much about this husband and wife, and they have a son, and he's sort of like he can't really find a job. They move to this new city. He lost his job, and then he sees this firefighters because they're in this area where there are a lot of wildfires in the summer, and
Hmm.
so he decides to go with them because he wants to get away. And while he's away, his wife sort of goes through a crisis because she thinks he's cheating on her and he wants to get away from the family. She's struggling, so she finds another man, an older man who could take care of the family. And it's a lot about like mother and father drama, which is funny because Paul Dano also played the father in The Fablemans, which
Yeah.
sort of deals with a similar thing with like divorce and cheating and things like that. And there's this son obviously who is caught in the middle of this, and he starts like working as a photographer part time. And it's a great film. It's a very like great vibe. It's very beautifully shot, and he wrote it, I think, with his girlfriend. Her name
Zoe
is
Kazan,
Zoe Kazan, and it's a good
granddaughter of a legendary director as well,
another
Elia Kazan.
nepo baby.
There we
And
go.
but it's a really great film. I highly recommend it. And yeah, it's a really impressive directorial debut in my opinion. Like it's so beautifully shot, and it's a great story about like us humans and the struggles. And Jake Gyllenhaal and Carey Mulligan are fantastic in it. So
Yeah.
these are the things with like these films made by actors. You can just tell they're actors first, and they know like how to work with actors and give them something. So that's what I really like about this one. So that's my first
Hell
pick.
yeah. I still got to see it. I still got to see it.
Mhm. I
And
went
this
through
is
it
Paul Dano's only film, right? That he's
only
directed?
so far. I think is he doing something else? Not there's nothing planned, but I heard like that he might do
He
some maybe
will. I'm sure he will.
yeah. First one, but a really great one. So I hope he does more.
Yeah. Um, okay. Sick. The wildlife. Or is it just wildlife? Or the
Wildlife.
wildlife? Wildlife.
Wildlife. Mhm.
My second one, which I almost didn't want to put a David Lynch film on
Mhm.
here because I don't actually think this movie lives up to any David Lynch film. I don't think it even
Mhm.
comes close. But there is one David Lynch film that I do think it actually does kind of have a kinship with, and that's David's last proper feature, Inland Empire from 2006.
Mhm.
Um, this is a movie that uh, I also don't really love it, but I respect the hell out of it because David went out and made a movie without the audience in mind one iota. He did not make this for any audience. He made it strictly to explore things within himself. And it's very inaccessible, very, very inaccessible, very long, very hard to get through. But I can admire that he made something. He's like, I just want to experiment with a bunch of stuff on these like handheld video cameras. And I feel like Lost River is another thing where Ryan Gosling clearly did not make this for any audience in mind. If he did, I don't know what audience that is. I think he made it solely for himself.
Mhm.
And I can admire that and appreciate that. Kind of bold for your first film to do that, but you're also
Mhm.
Ryan Gosling, so why not if you have a blank check to do it? But it's a movie that is such a I mean, it's just a bunch of non sequiturs that are strung together by some kind of dream logic, which is very much Lost River. And I think that Inland Empire truly has no plot whatsoever. Mulholland Drive, there's a plot. Blue Velvet, there's a plot. Elephant Man, there's a plot. Eraserhead, to an extent, there's a plot. Inland Empire, there's truly nothing. Like there is nothing. It is just a series of dreams, and I could totally see him just being obsessively in love with this movie. Have you seen Inland Empire?
I haven't. I wanted to get into it, but I just never did.
It's very
It's
tough.
unfortunate, but I want to because I also admire when directors make stuff like for themselves as opposed to
Yeah,
like for other people. And I think that's how it finds the right people, in my opinion. And
yeah.
so I need to check it out
You
just because
you
of this.
should.
Yeah.
Same thing with this movie though. You have to be in the right mindset. You have to
Mhm.
like have it within you where like I'm ready to settle down for 3 hours to watch Inland Empire.
Yep.
Um, it's not like what's on? No, let's throw an Inland Empire. It's not. Yeah, at all that movie. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm curious. What's your next film?
Mhm. So for my next film, I picked one that I'm sure you've seen as well, and that is Jonah Hill's first film called Mid
Yeah.
90s, which doesn't
Yes.
need an introduction. And I was like, should I pick this one because it's already like so well known and got like so much like critically acclaim. But
Yeah.
this film is just so special because of how much of a vibe it is, and because I was born like in the late 90s, but still like this skating culture was still present until
Yeah.
like the mid 2000s, so like the end of 2000s. And so I grew up in these things, like they came a little bit later in Germany, and they always take a little time until they get overseas.
Sure.
So I grew up with like the Tony Hawk games. I grew up with like shows like Seek and Luther. I had a skateboard, like a cheap shitty skateboard, and I went out with my friends who wanted to be like professional skateboarders. I sucked at it, and I sort of
Yeah.
like stopped because one, I was scared, and second of all,
Yeah.
like I wasn't good, and I was sick of like getting hurt all the time. So, but
Yeah.
they're friends of mine, like they kept going. They're like really great, and it's not even about skating. It's just about like this time where life was just easier. You would just go out with your friends and do dumb stuff like jump off roofs and like put fireworks in trash cans and things like that, and just like a simpler time where you could just like goof around with your friends. And that's sort of like what this film encapsulates so much. So even if you didn't grow up with like skating culture, you can still find this great vibe of like this great childhood time where you could just do whatever you want and you were free to explore the world. And I mean, this is just such a beautiful film and such a vibe. And the main character, like the kid, is incredible, and it's a very fun film. So if you, for some reason, haven't checked it out yet, do so because I'm sure you're gonna like it. And you've seen this one, I'm pretty sure,
Oh yeah.
and
Of
you like
course.
this one, I can
Yeah, I
imagine as
like this movie. Um, it's sick. It's also a great choice to kind of go off both of ours because there's no real plot in mid '90s either. It's sort of just
well.
life with these kids, and
Yep.
that's kind of what Lost River is. So I think that's a like, apart from just the whole actor as director thing, I think that's like an actual great choice, like
Mhm.
thematically as well. Yeah, that's an awesome choice. Mid '90s is an awesome movie.
Oh yeah. So that's my second one. What's yours?
Hell yeah. My third film is a film by Robert Altman, a movie that I actually desperately need to revisit this movie.
Mhm.
Um, but it did come to mind when I was thinking of, what could possibly go with this. And that's a film he made in 77 called Three Women. It's starring Shelley Duvall and Sissy Spacek.
Mhm.
But essentially, it's like a pure surreal sort of dream. Another one that's very this is one I actually do like so far, like a movie I actually really did very much enjoy.
Mhm.
Um, where it's it's just this weird trying to think of a way of even describing it, but it's almost like these three the women, the titular three women are separate people that then become one and then become each other and then become other people, and it's just not in a physical way, but they adapt each other's personalities. And then like Shelley Duvall very much like changes her personality, while Sissy Spacek's personality completely changes in this weird way. And again, this is one that I really desperately need to give a proper rewatch, but I remember being so blown away by it. And again, no plot at all, but just seeing these women like they just have such a strange relationship with one another. They're kind of like sort of like forced to be roommates or something like that, and they have a very odd relationship that's very close but very distant. And really hard to describe it. I'm doing a terrible job of it, but it's just a very surreal, dreamlike, plotless sort of film. Um, that also kind of takes place in sort of like a small town, very rural sort of thing. And Detroit obviously is not a small town, but it is rural because so much of it is left to waste. And a lot of that world feels similar to Three Women, even though Three Women, I'm pretty sure, takes place in California. Um,
That
but
sounds
this is it's a great film. I think everyone should add it to their watch list if they haven't heard of it. Everyone should see it if it's already on their watch list. It's a great movie. Criterion has it on Blu-ray. Um, yeah, I gotta get that Blu-ray and rewatch it. I haven't seen it in a couple of years, but yeah, it came to mind when I was thinking of some movies for this.
I'm very intrigued by it. I've never heard of it, but it sounds really, really cool. And what you said, like
It's
when they
sweet.
sort of become each other and then other people, like that is you pitched that movie perfectly, and I need to check it out.
It's kind of like a Dino movie in a way, but
Mhm.
like a dream-like, surreal, over the top, somewhat even like Lynchian, pre-Lynchian sort of way.
Damn, I gotta check this out, man. That
Yeah,
sounds
it's cool.
sounds wild.
It's cool. I definitely highly recommend.
Hell yeah. Okay, so for my third one, I went with Brie Larson's first film, and that is called Unicorn Store. Which have you seen this one? Never even
I've
have you heard?
never even heard of it. No,
Interesting. Okay, so it's on Netflix. Yeah, it's a Netflix film starring she stars in it herself and also Samuel Jackson is in it. So pretty much it's about this girl and she wants to become an artist, but she gets kicked out of art school. So she has to return to live with her parents in this normal life, has to take a normal like office job, and then she's like really depressed about it because obviously she wants to be an artist, that's her dream. And she gets invited to the unicorn store where she meets a seller who is played by Samuel Jackson. He's like, I'm gonna give you a unicorn. And the unicorn is like a metaphor for like your dreams, your hopes and dreams and things like that.
for sure.
You have to do these things in order to get this unicorn. So she sort of like has to get her life in place for the unicorn to have like decent living situations. And so she has to like get financial. She has to like get sort of like housing for the unicorn. And
Yeah,
it's very like weird like sounding film, but it's so beautiful and it's very much about like your dreams and like being an artist, how hard it is, and also about like being an adult and failing at things and maybe not all your dreams can come true and what dreams you should pursue and sort of like not giving up and making the best out of it. And it's a great film. I think every artist in general, like every person who wants to become an artist, who wants to make films, who wants to paint, whatever, like I think they should check this one out. I know it didn't receive a lot of like great reviews, but I personally like I loved it and inspired me very much. So I think this is like a must watch for people who want to make art because it's just like very beautiful film.
yeah.
And yeah. So
I'll check it out. I haven't even heard of it. I was just doing some research now. I see what's his name? Hamish Linklater is in it as well.
mhm,
Who I love seeing him pop up and stuff, and Joan Cusack.
mhm.
Yeah, I didn't even know it's on Netflix though, so I can easily see it. I'm gonna have to check it out. Did
It's
this come
fun.
out on Netflix?
It came out on Netflix. It's a Netflix
Okay,
original, I'm pretty sure. And before that, like this was like they've been trying to make this one for a while. I'm not sure if it was Netflix per se, but Brie Larson auditioned for the role, and she didn't get it. And she was really bummed out about it because like this was like a project she wanted to be a part of. And
Yeah.
then the movie fell apart. And then someone approached her, like the producer, like he said to her, like, you were like really interested in starring in this one. You want to direct it? And she was like, hell yeah. So it sort of
Oh, that's
became
sick.
her dream that she wanted to do. It became like reality, and I'm very like happy for her. And she did a wonderful job. I love this film, and you should check it out, and maybe you like it as well.
That's awesome. I'm definitely gonna add it to the watch list on Netflix. And here, one sec, I'm gonna take out the AirPods because they're starting to die on me. Let me know if you can still hear me. Hold up. We'll edit this out.
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely add that to the queue on Netflix. That seems cool. I hadn't even seen it or heard of it or anything like that. And it's a
Yeah,
cool cast, so I'll have to
not a
check that
lot of
shit out.
people have, which is a shame. I think it's a very great film. So hopefully
Yeah,
more
I
people do,
feel like they buried that shit. I did not hear about it whatsoever.
as Netflix does.
As Netflix does. Oh
Yeah.
yes, they do. It's a shame because some of the stuff they should be bearing, they don't.
Yep.
So my last pick, I was originally going to go with The Tree of Life by Terrence Malick, but then I took it out and I was looking through Letterboxd and this movie came up and I was like, this is actually kind of a good pick. And that's the Carl Theodor Dreyer film from 1932, Vampire or Vampire. Um,
Interesting.
I thought you would like that choice because there is. Have you seen this one? I know we've talked about it, but have you seen this one? I know we've talked about Dreyer.
I haven't yet, but I
Okay.
actually wanted to watch it maybe this week, but I sort of thought to myself I wanted to watch it like multiple times the last couple of weeks, but I was like, maybe I should keep it for next October. But I've been meaning to watch this one for a while, and I know of it, like I've seen clips of it, and I
Okay.
know what kind of incredible film it is. So I'm very excited for you to pick this one. It's a very like
Yeah.
I didn't expect
And
this.
yeah, and I this was like a last minute like audible like right before we started recording because I again haven't seen it in a while, but there is and I'll try to speak just very briefly on it, like without getting too much in, because you should see it. And the movie's not long; like the movie's like 70 minutes. Like it's an easy watch. Um, but there is a sort of like I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, like where things sort of float in the movie. Like people just kind of appear and then disappear and leave the character with a message of things that he has to do, and then he goes off and explores it alone, and it feels like everyone in the town is just like a ghost, like no one feels real in this world. And there's something about Lost River where it's like everyone feels like dead, like no one feels like they're like a real human being in Lost River. They all feel like it's a weird alternate like world or reality or something. And Vampire does a great job of that, and especially the way that Dreyer shoots it is definitely more proficient than what Gosling does. Obviously, we're talking about two separate, kinds of filmmakers here, but um, Vampires, it's a really moody, overplot kind of story as well, where there is a plot to it, but it's not like driving it. You know what I mean? Whereas like Nosferatu maybe is more focused on the well, Nosferatu it might be tough to compare it to because that's one of the most moody movies ever. But
Yeah.
it has a more solid plot, I think, than Vampire doesn't. And it's easy to compare the two films because it came out somewhat around the same time, both vampire movies, whatever. But this feels a little bit more freeform, a little bit less bound by any kind of story, and more
Mhm.
so just the experience of what maybe a specter or a spirit might feel or something. And it's really neat. It's a really cool movie. Another one that I really gotta rewatch. It's on Max currently, and also Criterion Channel in the States. So
Mhm.
yeah, for those listening, definitely check it out. Underrated movie, I feel like.
I think it's even on YouTube. I'm pretty sure, just because
I
of
bet
like
you it
how
is.
old it is.
Based,
I think it's public domain, pretty much.
let me see if there's a good an actual good like print of it. But I'm almost positive it's got to be on YouTube for sure.
Yeah, at least here in Germany, I know it is because yeah, those films usually
Um, it's actually not.
it's not. It's I'm pretty sure it is here in Germany because I know I looked for like a shot of it and I saw like the full thing.
Oh yeah, here it is. It's not. It does. It looks like shit. but
Okay.
it's here. It looks very bad.
Okay.
But it is on here. I think it has some kind of protection over here, based on someone owns it. Like I'm almost positive
Mm.
somebody like owns it, that
It
movie.
might be the
So
case here, but not here. Pretty
maybe,
sure, but that's
maybe,
a great pick. I love that.
yeah. Highly recommend that movie. I can't wait for you to see it, whether it be soon or in 5 or 6 months or whenever October comes around, 7 months. Um,
Yeah, I'm still not sure. Like, I want to watch it, but at the same time, I want to like keep good shit for October. And I
yeah,
always love like piling those up in October. So,
for sure.
but I'll definitely watch it this year for sure.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so for my last one, I haven't decided yet. I put out two films because I couldn't decide which one. So I'm gonna let you decide
Drop them
which.
both.
Well, do you want to hear like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's film or Regina King?
Or who?
Regina King.
I have no idea what the Regina King film would be. I think I know what the Joseph Gordon-Levitt film would be though.
Mhm.
So let's go Regina King. Let's switch it up.
Okay. So her
Get a
first
lady.
film, One Night in Miami.
Oh shit. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's right. I didn't
And
see it, but yeah, I forgot she directed that.
yeah, that came out, I think, like during COVID, right before, around that time on
Yeah.
Amazon Prime. And it's pretty much like this one night where Malcolm X, Cassius Clay, who is Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, and Sam Cooke met.
Who's the first one? Malcolm X.
It was Malcolm X, Cassius Clay,
Yeah.
Jim Brown, the
Yeah. Football player.
football player, and Sam Cooke.
Oh, cool.
But pretty much it's like this fictional one night that they spent with each other in this like pretty much one hotel room. And you have this one place which isn't beautiful looking. Like it's a contrast from that, just like the hotel room. But those four actors and those four characters, like they fully immerse themselves into like these four very important people to like black culture and especially like that time. And so the conversations they have sort of transform this room into something else. And it's sort of like becomes more like your mind wanders and the conversations they have, they're like super well written. And I really love this film. I don't know if I'm not sure if a lot of people like watched it because during
Yeah.
COVID and Amazon Prime, so I didn't hear a lot of people talk about it. And I remember at that time, like not really seeing anything about it, which is a shame. So I highly recommend everyone to check this one out. And it's another great film where you have, I'm going to read you like some of the actors because you have Kingsley Ben-Adir, who was also in Barbie. He played like one of the other Kens,
And
who
he's
was,
also Bob Marley, man.
yeah, that's right. He's playing him as well. And Leslie Odom Jr. is also in this one. He's playing
Okay.
Sam Cooke. And you have Aldous Hodge and Eli Gore. And they're just like so great, especially Kingsley Ben-Adir because he plays Malcolm X.
Okay, I was
And
just gonna ask.
yeah, he just kills it. So this is one that people have to check it out. And a great first film by Regina King.
Hell yeah, dude. That's a great choice. Was the Joseph Gordon-Levitt, was that Don John?
That's Don John, which
Yeah,
I also really like. But
I've never seen that movie. I'm very familiar with it, but I've never seen it.
you've never seen it?
Uh-uh.
You gotta check it out. It is a
Is
great
it
film. I
funny?
watched. It's
Funny? Is it a comedy? I gathered it to be a comedy.
it is a little bit, but at the same time, it's not. It's a
Okay.
very like serious. Do you know what it's about?
Yeah, he's like a porn addict, right? Or he's a sex addict.
He's a porn addict,
Okay.
like addicted to pornography and like masturbating, and
Yeah.
so that sort of like puts his relationship with the woman he meets, played by Scarlett Johansson, a little bit in jeopardy, and sort of how he deals with like stopping porn and
Yeah.
things like that. And um, also, I think let me check because the cast is also really stacked. Because obviously, like Scarlett Johansson, you have Julianne Moore who plays sort of like this older woman he meets who sort of like helps him, and Brie Larson is also in it.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah, that's a great film. I highly recommend checking that out because it's a very serious topic, and I think he kills this first film.
I'll check it out. I mean, I remember it so vividly, like from it coming out.
Mhm.
Um, but like I just never, I don't know, I never got around to it. I'll definitely have to check that shit out for sure. Added that to the watch list.
Hell yeah.
Um, okay. Well, just to go back through for anyone listening who wants to take note of our four films, my picks were Crimes of the Future from 2022, Inland Empire from 2006, Three Women from 1977, and Vampire from 1932.
Great picks. And mine were Wildlife, mid 90s, Unicorn Store, and One Night in Miami / Don John.
Hell yeah. And that's it. That concludes our Lost River episode. We've had quite the day of podding.
Mhm.
Um, today we deserve some downtime in this next handful of hours before the Oscars start here. But next week we'll be coming back and we will be talking about. I just want to double check. I know we mentioned it earlier, but just to double check. Only God Forgives. Yeah,
Mhm.
Only God Forgives. I'm excited
And
to
may-
see.
yeah,
Go for it.
and maybe potentially another guest because there's a person who wants to be on the pod and has been asking for it for a while, and he has a very interesting take on Only God Forgives.
Interesting. Okay.
And might give like a because he doesn't like it at all, and he has a very strong opinion on it.
Interesting.
But
Okay.
he also like knows a lot about sort of this world. So I'm not sure, but we might have
Okay.
some.
All
Yeah,
right. Cool. Well, hey, I love having guests on here. And I'm excited to rewatch this movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, and I feel like it's due time for a proper like reappraisal of that movie for me.
same.
Um, I'm curious to know what I think and feel about it now at this point.
Did you
Um,
like it?
I didn't care for it at the time. It was
Oh,
just a
sure.
very passive thing for me. Like I didn't
Mhm,
I didn't get it. I can't I saw it like right when it came out. I just didn't get it. I wasn't thinking about movies in
mhm.
that way really either. But
Yeah.
I just didn't get it at all. So I'm excited. Maybe I'll think the same thing. Maybe I hate it even more this time. Who knows? But
Mhm.
we'll see. I'm excited to talk about it. And yeah, thanks as always for listening, folks. And always a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you guys for listening. We're sort of tired from talking, so it's done. Like we're done talking for today and enjoying the Oscars soon. So
We'll enjoy the Oscars. I hope you guys enjoyed our episode from last week too,
yeah.
for the Oscars. But yeah, all right. See you guys for Only God Forgives.
Bye bye.